Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky, it's Manchester Derby Day this Sunday. Don't miss City versus United. Live only on Sky Sports.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. This is Football Saturday. Remember our coverage on Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Don't miss Liverpool against West Ham on Saturday Night Football, live only on Sky Sports. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball, listen on News Talk, watch us on the digital and social channels for Periscope and Twitter, at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook and on the OTB Sports app. We're delighted to be joined in studio by Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent, the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward, and our special guest this week, Republic of Ireland and Shamrock Rovers midfielder Jack Byrne. Jack, you're very welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We're jinxing our guests here on Saturdays, Jack, because last week we'd Owen Doyle in here and they'd lost the night before, and unfortunately you played Pats last night and didn't go exactly to plan. Yeah,
look, I think performance-wise it was good. We just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net, and we missed some good chances early on, but that's football, that's the way it goes. That's why we play it and that's why we love it, because it's different every week.
How are you feeling the day after?
Sore.
What's the recovery process like?
We were in this morning and we were back at it this morning. Went in recovery session this morning. A few painful bodies, a few painful heads. Lads thinking maybe we could have done a little bit better. Just the usual day after a game. Don't sleep too much that night, and it's just you dust yourself down. Usually in this league you have a game on Monday, but we don't have that game on Monday now. We have a game on Friday, big game. So look, you just dust yourself down as best as you can, and you try and go again and get 3 points. So
you're kind of thinking about what happened during the match?
You'd be thinking about what happened during the match and, chances that we may have missed. And because we are playing some good football, especially in the first half. So if we had took one of the chances probably in the first half, it might have been a different story. But, we gave them a way into the game. We gave them something to hold on to. And to be fair, the Pats, they were game. And, they had a game plan and they executed it well. But I can't say we're not happy with our performance. We were pretty comfortable coming off the pitch, although with nothing to show for it. We were quite happy with our performance.
How are you feeling about being back?
I'm enjoying it. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's good to be back out there getting minutes in the legs. It's been a long time since I've played, so I've got 4 games now, probably 5 with the President's Cup. We probably count that one as well. Couple of 90 minutes, feeling better, feeling sharper, but still getting my body used to being back in full flow really. So hopefully a bit more to come now over the next couple of games.
You noticing anything different upon your return? I suppose the interest and the start of the season is always good, and the fact that the matches are full with fans.
Definitely. The first couple of games, you couldn't ask for anything more really.
Right.
Fans wise, full houses, packed stadium, kids, older people there.
You got some stick last night, right?
Yeah, of course.
That's why you couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
You were thinking as a 7-year-old.
I told Johnny on the way in there that some 7-year-old was leaning over the fence when I was in Richmond Park. Obviously, when you're going to take the corners, you've got about a centimetre of a run up to take the corner, and there's some 7-year-old there throwing bottles at me saying, get back to Cyprus, basically, and not in that manner. I told him
maybe a less polite manner.
I told him I was freezing. I wish I could. But,
you have to accept the banter as well, lads.
It's all part of it.
Yeah, you want that. You don't want to be going there and it's easy and you walk away 3 points or nobody cares. The reason why I love playing here and the reason why I wanted to come back here is because I know the connection that I have with the Shamrock Rovers fans, but I see the connections that towns have. Just say when you go down to Sligo or I used to love going down and playing against Cork because it was like that down there. It was brilliant.
We need to build more of that, don't we?
You do.
That community spirit and that profile.
I think it's getting cooler for young kids to go to League of Ireland games now, and that's the way it's you're gonna build it. I think the academies obviously merging with the first teams. The kids kind of want to go and they want to see the Owen Doyles. They want to see the Chris Forresters at Pats. And they're kind of looking like, looking to them players and say, well, I want to be the next one of them, and they're going to the games now. They're excited going to the games, and that builds, a legacy for a fan really when they're going to the FAI Cup finals from a young age all the way through. I talk to some Shamrock Rovers fans that are 70 years of age, talking about when they were playing in previous stadiums and previous cup finals and all this. So that's what you need, but it has to start early on. It has to start as when they're young.
In terms of looking at the Premier League or the Manchester Derby tomorrow, are you still keeping tabs with some of your former teammates at the Etihad?
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, I still speak to obviously Jack Grealish and drop Phil Foden the odd message. I wouldn't say I talk to them every day because I'm not. It's not like that. I'm not that kind of person just because I play for Man City or whatever. I feel like I need to chat to them every day, but. I like to think that most of the clubs we've been at have had good relationships with players that I've played with, and still chat to them and still be on good terms. But yeah, obviously a big game, so I'm looking forward to seeing how they do.
What's Grealish feeling like in terms of the way it's gone so far?
I think he's happy enough, to be honest. He's sitting there, what is it? 400, 500
He's deeply unhappy with life.
Yeah, I don't think it's bothering him too much what people are saying.
I thought he'd be playing more often, or I thought that it was.
Yeah, I think he's still struggling with a shin injury that he picked up at Villa a couple of probably to the back end of the season they stayed up. So, but if you break down his performances, I think he's been okay. You know what I mean? I think he's played well. I don't think they haven't lost many games he's played. He's obviously gone into a new level, Champions League. If you take away the price tag, then I think he's done well. It's just they've paid such big money for him. Paid obviously £100 million for him. It's record transfer. So there's a lot more pressure involved in that. But I think there was probably more to the Grealish signing than just what he brings on the pitch. I think they were kind of looking for one of those, superstar poster boys. During the Euros, everyone was asking for him to play, so I think there was a little bit more to it than just his football ability. They're still trying to figure out how to get him into the team, now, I think.
Well, your friendship with Grealish, does that come from Irish under-21 duty, is it? Or?
Yeah, that would have came from Ireland under-21s and just being around Manchester and obviously playing against him when he was at Villa and stuff, and then having some mutual friends, and whenever they'd be up in Manchester we'd go out because it was just we were young and we were just that's what we were doing, so and then obviously I was in the 21s very young. I was in the 21s I think at 17. I think just gone 17. Noel King called me up. Paul Doolan wasn't too happy about that because he left me out in 19s. Yeah, so
it's not like Paul Doolan to be unhappy about the situation.
No, I'm sure he'd bring that up somewhere anyways about me.
He did have a reason for it, didn't he?
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was, but
but it was like, did you not start Grealish when you were the Ireland under 19s?
Yeah, he left Grealish out as well.
Yeah, that was probably not ideal, but anyway.
Yeah,
but it's a step above with Pep, isn't it?
For
Jack Grealish.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's a step above going into that environment, but he's certainly well able to play that level, and I think he's proven like he's not been an absolute total disaster or anything like that. He's just trying to fit into a new way of playing. But obviously, a lot of Pep's play would be more positional play and waiting for the ball and letting the ball do the running basically for you. And Jack's a dribbler, isn't he? So
yeah.
He wants them 1v1 situations. He's probably better when he gets the ball a little bit deeper and he's driving and he has players in front of him and he can slip players in. And at the moment when he's playing for City, what I see is teams are sitting back against him. He's getting the ball out on the left and he's not really a 1v1 kind of player in that left wing position. The way Sterling or Mahrez would be. He's actually very different to that. He pick the ball up deeper in midfield and dribble past midfield players and commit defenders. Then that's the way I see him. So I still think they're trying to find a way of getting the best out of him and getting him obviously into the team. But if he plays that deep midfield position or that roaming position, he's obviously got Kevin De Bruyne in front of him, so he's not gonna take that position anytime soon. So they need to find a way to get the best out of him in them higher positions.
Like I always thought it was going to be a big adjustment for him because you watch him play for Villa and he was doing everything. He was the central sort of focal point of the team. You watch Villa play and you almost felt he was under pressure to make everything happen for them. Whereas City, you go to City and you're slotting into a a machine that's sort of working, that's operating very well. So I always thought maybe like the first season there'd be a little bit of that adjustment, and you kind of see it from year 2 and year 3 that it'll really sort of kick on there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think as well, at Villa he's the main man. Everything is going through him. That me?
No, that's not you.
At Villa, everything is going through him, and you know, he was probably, you know, 1 or 2 levels above the players he was playing with. So they're probably looking for him at every moment of the game, and everything good that was happening in the games were going through him. You know, if he wasn't getting the ball on the left, he could filter over to the right, or he could drop into the middle, or he could drop a little bit deeper. At City, he's not going to do that because they've got so much of the ball that he has to hold his position, and you know, it's not even for him to get the ball most of the time. It's just to pin oppositions in positions that, you know, the other players can get free. It's basically just you know, they use players as decoys really at City.
Is there any sense that players couldn't not enjoy all aspects of playing for Guardiola, because it is like, it's, you compare like that to, we'll say obviously Villa, but like even Man United where you have a bit of freedom, like it is regimented, I suppose, is it?
Yeah, I think so, but I think, you know, if you're winning games and you're top of the league, then you're gonna enjoy it. You know, if you're at United and you're roaming all over the place and you're 6th in the league or 5th in the league, you're not gonna enjoy it as much. But I do. There's a goal for Newcastle. I do.
That's the second.
A second one. So
Wow.
Ryan Fraser scored the first one just a moment ago, and they've just got a second one. So Newcastle 2, Brighton 0. We also have Aston Villa. That's Fabian Schär scoring the second for the Magpies. Aston Villa are 1-0 up on Southampton. Jack Grealish's former club, and Ollie Watkins has got the goal.
Jack's team as well. He's a Villa fan, so he'd be delighted.
Jack Byrne and Jack Grealish. Let's just hear from Alexander Zinchenko, because he's been speaking to Gary Lineker of the BBC about what's happening in Ukraine at the moment.
When you see the images of the destruction of the cities in Ukraine at the moment, what goes through your mind?
I'm just crying. I promise you, I'm just crying. It's already a week, like, I'm not counting, but even I can drive the car from the training ground, or it doesn't matter where, I can just cry from nothing, because it is everything in my head. Imagine the place where you was born, when you was growing up, and there is just empty ground.
Does it also make you feel proud of your people, the way they've stood up and been brave, and from the leaders onwards, Zelensky, Klitschko, and obviously the population?
I'm so proud to be Ukrainian one, and I will be forever, for the rest of my life. And when you're watching the people, how they fight for their lives, there is no words, you know. So I know the people, the mentality of my people from my country. They prefer to die, and they will die, but they're not gonna give nothing.
What do you say to Russia when they say this is just a security operation?
I can show you 1 million pictures. I can show you 1 million videos, what they're doing now. I can show you every city in my country which they destroyed. And this is a secret operation. It's impossible. This is the real war. And the way what they're doing with my people is not acceptable. We need to stop this.
Yeah, it's terrible, lads, isn't it? And maybe it's taken this for sport to wake up to its relationship with money.
Well, we're watching Newcastle here, so probably not, JD. There's so many contradictions in the whole thing. I mean, the Abramovich thing at Chelsea is very, very complex as well. It's very hard to know much about him because he never really talks, and it's ultimately tragic. And FIFA's hand was forced a bit by what happened after initially kind of procrastinating over it. We have a World Cup in Qatar that's deeply questionable, and like you know, obviously Russia are being punished here, but like it's not like football has become a saint overnight or anything like that.
No, Dan, the legacy of Abramovich is pretty stark, isn't it? For 19 years, like I was looking at when he took over Chelsea, there was just 2 clubs owned by non-English people, Fulham and Chelsea, when he took over.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it's something that you can sort of attribute to the Abramovich era. I think it's more the Premier League has sort of become a sort of a multicultural sort of league in that time, and that ownership situation was always likely to probably transpire. But yeah, like it is a sort of. It's just reading the pieces about it this week. The speed with which this seems to have happened. You know that. I assume there's a sort of a degree of insulation, believing that in football this actually won't come to pass. This scenario won't come to pass, that maybe he would have to give it up. And then clearly that changed in the space of sort of 24, 48 hours. But I take Johnny's point. I agree. Like, you know, is this going to be some kind of reckoning for football's relationship with sort of where it gets its money from? It's very unlikely. Like, you saw the comments from Amanda Staveley at Newcastle.
Bizarre comments. That was a strange.
But they're not bizarre, really, John. Like, I mean, I know what you're saying. They're strange in the context of what you might
What's
choose
happened
to
this
believe.
week.
But there's no way that she's going to come out and say something as if, yeah, maybe we need to have a think about this. Like, she's been, you know, she's in tandem with, or sort of operating as a representative of an ownership group. The Saudi relationship with the Newcastle relationship, with the Saudi hierarchy is more direct, as much as Abramovich is the whole area of his relationship with Putin. I mean, it's been subject to like legal issues and stuff when people have written about it. I don't think people are encountering any legal issues linking Newcastle with the PIF and Saudi hierarchy. So Staveley wasn't going to say anything. She sort of said it's a shame it has to be taken off him because maybe they're worried about some kind of precedent. But no, like strong words from Zinchenko and like that is powerful. I mean, you see Russia. Johnny says Russia have been punished, but obviously they're talking about appealing. And I think they probably would think they have a chance of appealing too, because lawyers will cite precedents or other examples or whatever it might be, and as a result, who knows where that case might go. So, yeah, it's sad. You know Zinchenko, Jack. You spent a bit of time with him at City.
Yeah, it would have been. He would have came over to City. Would have been in the reserves with him. Good player, great lad. Was actually number 10 when we played together. Look, it's obviously terrible what's going on at the moment, and hopefully it can be all sorted soon, somehow. But it's hard to say if it will be or if it won't be.
I think the people in football, to see Thomas Tuchel out there, various other people being asked about it. Like, it is a difficult one for them, but I don't know. Like, I don't see.
Absolve responsibility.
They have to front up, I think, though, and answer.
I think the right to be asked the questions.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know which press conference I was watching, where someone just kept being asked about it. Was it Tuchel?
It was Tuchel.
And it's the right thing to do is to keep asking, in my opinion, because you have to sort of, you can't just go, okay, this is a tough subject, we won't go there today. But I also understand like the compromised position that people feel in terms of not being able to answer. And like, probably this world, Jack, like, people, footballers, everyone is advised to be so careful in what they say anyway. Yeah. Zinchenko is got a powerful lobby, and but you can imagine the handlers and other people that are around are just telling people to be safe and not to overcommit in anything they say.
Especially for someone like Tuchel, who at the time was obviously, Roman Abramovich was still employing him and still calling all the shots there. When he was first asked about it. So then he obviously came out with a statement saying he was handing over to the I think it was the charity.
It's a nation,
but Abramovich, he's pumped an awful lot of money into Chelsea, and he's probably started the that big turn in the Premier League
Massively.
Yeah, massively. So.
There's only 3 now English owners in the Premier League, and it's the horse is bolted completely on the Premier League. It's like, I don't think they can do anything now to reverse what they've done. They signed a 10 billion contract for international rights.
So
5 billion of that from international sport, and 5 billion from the domestic market.
Yeah, like it's sad now that when we had the Super League and the fans protesting that was almost like the last.
The Premier League is the Super League now.
Yeah, and that was almost like the last thing of the dying wasp, because fans going to games isn't all that important to the clubs anymore. It's the money comes from elsewhere. And there can't be following orders, like, and we go back to the war as well. I was following orders. You can't absolve yourself. If you're a part of these clubs, you do have to look into where the money is coming from, and it's not just about playing football. And I thought what was most interesting about the Zinchenko interview, which was really excellent, was he's really hurt by the silence of Russians about this, because if you were a Russian person and you were a Russian footballer, you are in a position of influence here. And I'm sorry, but there's no way in the world in any fair world that you can, as much as Russian people are being indoctrinated by the media over there, if you're a Russian footballer playing globally, it is beholden of you to look at this and say, this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. And if this was done in my name as an Irish person, I'd be the first person to say this is disgusting what's happened here. And Russian players, I think, have hurt Zinchenko by not saying anything about it.
Maybe a fear element there, though. Like Russia's on the road now, day by day to North Korea. That's where Russia's going.
Yeah, like it's turned into, obviously, Putin basically seems to have his, basically he's calling the shots and everything. But at the same time, you can't. People just can't be silent. I mean, you have to be a little bit brave and say this is wrong. This is wrong, and you can't exist in fear if you're a footballer just because you're from Russia. I mean. The brave people have been out in the streets in St. Petersburg and other cities, despite the fact that they, fear imprisonment and that. And if you're a closeted footballer playing in Europe, I think you should be, apt to say, well, this is wrong, and it's not in my name.
I think the vast majority of the Russian national team are still playing in Russia. They don't have too many based overseas. I think the tennis player, did Medvedev maybe have some comments about it?
He just was obviously talking about, we all want peace. The genesis of what he said.
Yeah, and there was some chat that even around the Paralympic stuff that maybe some of the Russian athletes had been sort of, were alleged to have been sort of taunting sort of Ukrainians, which is sort of hard to get your head around, really. But I think, I don't know, the relationship between the state and I suppose big sport, as you want to call it, in Russia. I mean, John, myself and yourself were both over there in 2018 at the World Cup. The team, performed quite well. There's a strong relationship there, and I think there probably is a fear, as Johnny says, and you would love if players come out and said something. I agree with Zinchenko. It would be the right thing to do. But I would suspect, again, and we go back to the point, I'd say there might be players who want to say something who are being advised to say nothing. And we have seen other people in Russian football, like a couple of managers left their position and didn't want to work there. And you will see, obviously, if that situation continues, like clubs in Russia will struggle and they'll lose people. But I think I'd say it's just I think fear is probably the right word, to be honest.
Yeah. Sadly, and look, let's hope there's some kind of positive resolution, because it's just absolutely horrific what's happening at the moment.
I guess just if you take away the war itself, sport cannot be used as a vehicle for these strongmen and dictators to showcase, from 1936 up until Qatar now. We have to get away from, I guess when
sport capitalises on people's escapism.
It does, at 100%.
Yeah, and people want to escape, so don't be troubling me with this talk about who owns it or who the dictator is or where it's been held.
This is escapism, but it's not. Sport isn't escapism for someone like me, or for Jack or for Dan or for you. It's basically our lives to a large extent. And 1936, basically everyone's under orders to not take away all anti-Jewish graffiti, and all the visitors to Berlin think this is an amazing place and all that. And I guess it's at a lesser level. When you guys went to Russia that time, the bad stuff in Russian society was the
hooliganism, get out of here.
Yeah,
it was the safest place on earth. It was the most joyous place. I mean, I do think that I don't connect the sports washing of Russia's reputation at the World Cup with what's happened in Ukraine. I don't actually connect it. And I actually think that there was I think Russia was spooked by the fact that for the first ever time, people had come to their country from all around the world, South America and Europe and everywhere else in Australia, and had a brilliant time. And Russian people were, I having seen them, and Dan can say what he wants to say, were baffled in a smiling way, and to the extent where when Russia beat Spain, the army were coming out and telling people to calm down, because control was being loosened by the fact that people were saying, this is interesting. These people are all on the metro, they're having so much fun. I live a grey life where my Wi-Fi is controlled. It's free, but it's controlled in the metro. Everybody can spy on it. Spoke to 2 Russian lads in a bar on my last day there. They told me how difficult it was for them to even go to Barcelona for a weekend because of visas and all that kind of thing. So Soviet Union was a prison. Russia has been a different kind of prison for 22 years under Putin. That was a chance for Russian people to see the joy of what a World Cup is supposed to be. And it was a chance for it to open up. And it did open up for 7 weeks. And that was just obviously, you know, it wasn't completely it was a degree of Potemkin village around it. But there was a missed opportunity, and now it's gone in a very, very dark direction, given the fact that Putin, I think, has gone rogue within himself.
But I had a great time in Russia, but I don't think that the opportunity that the World Cup offered, like, I'm not even sure to what extent it even existed, because Russia is massive. Like, it's unbelievably huge. And I would have had the same discussions that you've had, John, with people about visas and stuff like that, particularly in Moscow. But then you go down to somewhere like Samara, which is, like, again, like, you know, hours away on a flight from Moscow. So in some ways very divorced from the capital, like, and it's a very different life. You know, you're sort of you know, Moscow is like thriving and sort of modern, and it would almost remind you of London at times in a certain way. Then you go to Samara, and, like, you know, your taxi picking you up is like a 1980s car. You know what I mean? And it's, you know, costs like the equivalent of €1, and people are stopping you all the time. You know, why do people not like Russia? And you do actually see this is a city of, like, with millions of people where they are very unaware of their place in the world and how they're perceived. But just to go back to Johnny's point, though, you know, sport shouldn't be used as a vehicle. But it's always been that way. Like, you know, you talk about the Rumble in the Jungle or something like that. Why was that in Zaire?
Good money.
You know, like, you can talk of many great events in history which have been all gone to places. Like, why, you know, the World Club Cup and some of these events, like, why they always played in the sort of the Gulf states or whatever. And sometimes it's subtle, and sometimes it's not, you know, and you can look at sort of, we've been in Azerbaijan, Johnny, like, you know, and, you know, they would have had a partnership, was it, with Atletico Madrid for a while, like, and no big club has probably been absolved from that in some shape or form. You know, you go off and play glamour friendlies in some country, and it's all to do with legitimising something. So there's no coming back from sport for that. And, like, this is the problem that sport faces with this, is that if they start to try and take a stand against Russia, it's without going into the what aboutery, but it's legitimate to ask, well, what about your Chinese money? Yeah. What about this? If you start to, like,
what about the war in Yemen? And
where do you
Israel
stop
and
with
so
that?
on? Absolutely.
Yeah, the horse is bolted. We're speaking to Jack Byrne, Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward, Football Saturday. Any questions for Jack? 53106, you can get in touch with us. Leicester 1, Leeds 0, a result from the Premier League. Aston Villa 1, Southampton 0, a latest score. Ollie Watkins on the mark. Burnley 0, Chelsea 0. We have Newcastle 2-0 up against Brighton. That's been some turnaround from Newcastle. Norwich 0, Brentford 0, and Wolves 0, Crystal Palace 1. So the Eagles have scored at Molineux, and Jean-Philippe Mateta has got the goal in the first half there. Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk, and Football Saturday is back after this.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Don't miss Liverpool versus West Ham on Saturday Night Football. Live only on Sky Sports.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. You can text us 53106, tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming the conversation. Listen on News Talk, but also watch us on the digital and social channels for Periscope and Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. Delighted to have Jack Byrne, the Republic of Ireland and Shamrock Rovers midfielder, in studio with Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent and the broadcaster and journalist Johnny Ward. Leeds lost again, 1-0 to Leicester earlier on in the Premier League. Latest scores, we have Aston Villa 1, Southampton 0, Burnley 0, Chelsea 0, Newcastle 2, Brighton 0, Norwich 0, Brentford 1 and Wolves 0. Crystal Palace 2. Now Palace have scored a second goal at Molineux, so Wolves struggling a bit recently. Wilf Zaha with the second goal from the penalty spot in the Championship. Fulham 2, Blackburn 0 as a result, so Fulham we know we're going to go up. Bristol City 0, Birmingham 2, Derby 1, Barnsley 0, Hull 0, West Brom 1, Middlesbrough 1, Luton 0, Preston 0, Bournemouth 0. Also goalless in the matches involving QPR and Cardiff and Reading and Millwall and Stoke and Blackpool. It's Swansea 1, Coventry 0, and in League 1 Will Keane scored for Wigan against Wimbledon.
Yeah, he has. Wigan without James McClean today, of course, because he was sent off. So I saw during the week that James McClean had been sent off in the 92nd
Which
minute.
wasn't it's in itself newsworthy.
Well, no, he hasn't actually had that many red cards.
Yeah, fair enough.
People can talk about his reputation. His red card record, actually, he doesn't have too many of them. But I saw he'd been sent off, and in the 93rd minute, I think they were playing Fleetwood, and it's because he had it. Then I sort of saw it, and he was wrestling a fella on the ground called Joe Garner. And I was like, Joe Garner, what does that name ring a bell? I was like, oh yeah, because when Jack Byrne went to Applewell Nicosia and Mick McCarthy left after a week, Jack was in a flat with Joe Garner.
Up to no good.
And I was thinking, because...
It wasn't a flat now, Dan. It was a villa.
It was a villa.
That was a big mistake. I would like to officially retract it, of course. The idea that the two of them were there, like...
It's going to sound like it was in Ballyback Flats.
I was just thinking sort of men behaving badly or something, like old pizza boxes on the floor or something. But, so anyway, Joe Garner, I was thinking, I wonder, because like, you know, Jack and James McLean obviously, you know, play for Ireland, they've shared dressing rooms. I think you have the same agent as James, you know, and Graham Barrett. And I was thinking, are you like, what's the story? Have you been in touch with Joe Garner about this? Because he got wrestled, as James McLean said on Instagram, he got him down and he grabbed him like a wee boy. Like an MMA hold.
A wee boy. I was looking at it the other night. I'm in a group chat with Joe and a couple of my mates, and he's saying it the other night. I said, what happened? He said someone told me he doesn't drink, so I wasn't too happy with him. He said, so the two of us went head to head. But I think it was just handbags. I think James probably knew that Joe probably played for Rangers.
You think?
I'd say so, yeah.
Do you reckon, yeah?
I'd say so. I think he likes everyone that plays for Rangers in the football league.
He doesn't even have the right to reply here. I mean, that's a big statement. Maybe he's right now.
Yeah, I think so. But I'd say it was just handbags, to be honest. But
what's James like as a lad?
James is a great fella.
Yeah.
James is brilliant fella. James he'd be actually quite quiet, you know. He's a
serious trainer, is he?
Yeah, he's a great trainer. You know, if people tell him he starts looking a little bit heavier, he's starting to look a little bit fat, he'd be in the gym for 4 or 5 hours and he wouldn't eat a Mars bar for the rest of the week in the Ireland camps. So that's the kind of person James is. You know, he's a great pro. He's certainly got the most out of his career. He drives himself and he drives others. He leads by example. He's a great fella, brilliant person. But so was Joe. Do you know what I mean? Joe's a legend. So
yeah, I saw some fans like saying after, obviously know the scene. They were like, "Well, surprise." So Joe has a bit of a like.
Joe was at Wigan, wasn't he? Joe was at Wigan before he went to Applewell, and when they went into administration, he went over obviously to Mickey, and he left halfway through the season. He left in November, December. Obviously they weren't getting paid. I think everyone's wages and stuff were after being sliced that weekend. So maybe the Wigan fans are giving him a bit of stick or something before that, and something happened. But when I spoke to him, he just said he went up for a header, and then they had a little bit of handbags after it, and he said they had Cheltenham away the weekend and he didn't fancy it.
Again, that's hearsay.
Again, that's hearsay. When you had you ever met Joe before you checked into your villa in Cyprus?
Was it a nice villa? Was it a nice villa?
No, we just got dropped off by Mick and Terry Connors in a convertible, and Joe was just sitting in the swimming pool in the villa out the back. No, I'm only joking.
I have this image of Mick and Terry Connor going along in an open top car in Cyprus.
Like a TV series.
No, we were in a hotel. We had to quarantine for I think it was 5 or 6 days. When we first got over there, it was mad. The army and all were in control of the airport because COVID had just came in. So everyone coming into the country had to quarantine for, I think it was 5 or 6 days, and then get another test. So we were obviously quarantining together, myself and Joe. So, you know, we had no choice but to get to know each other pretty quick. But we get on great. Joe he's a legend. Like anyone who would have played with him. Would I'm sure would say the same. Maybe not James, but most of the boys that would play with him or against would say he's a great fella, tough, really good bloke. Done a lot for me when I was over there, because for a long period of time we couldn't get family over and stuff like that. So
because of
COVID. So for the first, I think 6-7 weeks before my missus came over, me and Joe would have been with each other, nearly every day. And I brought one of my mates over, so it was me, Joe, and one of my mates. So we had a good bit of crack, to be fair. So
it's a good thing you did get on. Like, do you know what I mean? Like your experience, because it was a mad thing that happened there that you go over and Mick's gone.
Yeah.
If you'd ended up in a flat with a fella,
well, it's a villa. Sorry,
but it's a villa. Like the flat. I keep saying the flat. I don't know why. So you end up in a villa, if you'd ended up in a villa with someone you didn't like. It probably would be a different buzz.
Yeah.
Think how Joe was feeling.
Yeah, but I think I think Mick knew that we would get on, to be honest, because he as soon as I was going over, he had told me that Joe was going to be signing, and he gave me Joe's number, and then obviously me and Joe were talking. He said, you'll get on with Joe. And Mick knew the kind of character I was, because obviously he would have spent, weeks around us when we were away in Ireland camps and stuff. So I think he was good like that, Mick. He never really, I don't think he would have put me in that situation if he didn't think, you know, he kind of knew me, he knew my personality. He obviously had Joe at Ipswich, and obviously knew Joe really well. So, even when I was gone, he said, "Don't worry, you have Joe there. You'll have a bit of crack if anything else fails." And
just
the crack we had.
You're talking about the Ireland camp there, and we saw Queven Kelleher last week, Jack, and what confidence surely he'll gain now from that penalty shootout for Liverpool and the big stage and scoring the penalty, and then we saw Kepa miss. The confidence you got from playing for the Republic of Ireland, you're the first player since 1985 from the League of Ireland to play a competitive game. You're talking about James McLean, the crack, the camaraderie, Stephen Kenny. You got a text there recently, you told Nathan during the week. How much did that help your game as a footballer?
Massively, because it gives you that belief that, you're one of the top players in your country. I always, thought that we could get to that level, but it wasn't all talk. It was achieved, and it was something that, nobody can take away from me. Whether I play one more time or I play 100 more times, I've played, and I feel comfortable in how I've done in the games I've played. I think I've played well.
Should have said to that 7-year-old, shows your Ireland caps.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Never takes away from you.
We've still got Pat's fans messaging us here now as well.
What about, there's someone definitely talking about the free kick at the end, did he?
No,
what happened there? It went into the camera.
Smash me Mars back window.
What's that feeling
on
like?
the north side, to be fair.
It was in a flat as well, not a villa. But I think the story goes really it's 1-0. Pats are holding on for a desperately badly needed win, but Jack then gets his free kick in a great position, and then
the rest is history.
Is it just, and then you just have your head in your hands. You get abuse from the Pats fans. You're like, oh God, just kicked it. Or
it is what it is. You know what I mean? It's football. It's the 93rd minute. You've left a playing tough game, trying things all game, running hard. Last chance you get. I was actually trying to work something to Borgie, and then at the last minute, the cutback actually wasn't on. So I was thinking, I have to try and whip this now, and I just didn't really have it in my body to do it at that time. You're tired, you have to go through the mill. You're playing Pats away. It's a tough game. So,
are you even tired after, people who don't follow the League of Ireland, and you played for Ireland, you played at a higher level? Are you still tired after a game in the League of Ireland like that?
100%, because it's adrenaline as well, you know, and the adrenaline is slowly getting sucked out as the game is going on, and. I played 3 games in a week there for the first time in probably 6 to 8 months. When I'm looking back, so of course I'm going to be tired and mentally tired and still trying to create and still trying to do things. And you get a free kick in the last minute and you blaze it over the bar. Who cares? You know what I mean?
You scored one again. Well, it wasn't a free kick, but you scored a great goal against Strahd.
You know what I mean? So who cares? In the grand scheme of things, it's a free kick in the last minute. Yeah, if it was the 85th minute, would people, it is what it is.
You lose to Bows on Friday. That'll be World War IV.
Yeah, we're not thinking like that, Johnny. You know what I mean? We're thinking positively. I know.
It's nicely set up anyway.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a tough game, but we're thinking if we get 3 points there, it'll be a big 3 points. But I think, this year, certainly more than the last couple of years I was here and last year, there's going to be teams taking points off people that you don't expect. There's a lot of Dublin derbies this year for us. Shells are obviously in a better place. Sligo are really good. Dundalk, better. Pats, Bows, you know what I mean? They're tough games,
And Dundalk actually go top if they win tonight as well, which is, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, 100%. And they'll be thinking that's where they should be or where they should be aiming to be, and it's up to us to try and hold them off that,
Jack, I mean, you scored that goal against Strahd on Monday and you had the pass and, you get great praise and comments for it, but you're like, you're on social media, so you know what people say. There'll always be people saying, there he is, he's brilliant again, but what happened to him in Cyprus? Or, why is he in this league? How do you respond to those comments? Because invariably, they come,
I don't have to, probably when back in the day, I might have nibbled on a few things, but I don't really need to, say to anybody why I'm playing for Shamrock Rovers, you know what I mean? Or what I want to do in my life, or where I see myself at this moment in time, and where I see myself and where I want to play my football is Shamrock Rovers, and I'm happy that Shamrock Rovers will have me there and have me playing my football there. I feel as if I can play me best football there, especially at the moment. And football is like that. Dan, you know yourself, up in Derry on Friday night, I gave away a penalty, and probably a soft penalty. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Monday night, there's a game 2 days later. You go and you make a good pass and you score a great goal, and then Friday night you get beat by Pats 1-0 after probably playing better than we did in all previous three games.
Yeah.
So football is like that. It's up and down, and you don't really have time to be thinking about what somebody else is saying on Twitter, or saying to me, and saying why you're not in, why didn't it work out in Cyprus, although half of Richmond Park last night were saying it to me, you know what I mean?
It's just part of it now.
That's banter, you know what I mean? That's the banter, that's the football banter. I'm sure if it was the other way around, and I was Chris Forrester coming back from Aberdeen, I was playing for Pats, they're not saying to Chris, well, why are you coming back here to play for Pats? You know what I mean? So it is what it is. It's just the way it is.
Do you think in 10 years' time there'll be League of Ireland players playing for the national team?
Yeah, I think a lot of the national team has always been made up of League of Ireland players. Now, not necessarily League of Ireland players still playing in the League of Ireland, but certainly have played some part in the League of Ireland. And I think it's important. I think it's hugely important. But we need to get the League of Ireland to a level, first of all, where it's packed out every week. Fans want to come to the games. International manager, I know Stephen Kenny gets it. He's from the League of Ireland. He's applied his trade here in the League of Ireland, done really well here. But if Stephen moves on to something else in a couple of years, or if he goes on to manage a Premier League team or whatever, and somebody else comes in that's not in a League of Ireland background, when he goes to a League of Ireland game, he needs to think this is a proper game of football. You know what I mean? He needs to be looking at the product on the pitch, as if they're from the UK, or if they're from Norway, or wherever it is. The next international manager, they need to look at the league here as if it's a proper league, as if you're going
to get over how bad the facilities are.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That needs to improve, though, Johnny. It's not acceptable.
Oh, yeah. No.
When I said the other day, it's not only that. It's, the FAI have to improve. The kids are still training in the AUL. Us as a first team still have to, book a pitch in Abbottstown. So these things do need to change. So, and it's for people working together, and it's for the better of Irish football. And I'm not here. I'm not back in this country for myself, you know what I mean? And I'm not back here playing just so I want to do well, so I want to get in an international team. I want to play here because, I want to play here in a good league, in a top league, in a team that wants to do well in Europe, wants to be striving to, qualify for Europa Leagues. Europa Conference League now gives a good chance as well. But I want the other teams to do well as well. And I want the youth teams to do well, and I want the academies to do well. I want to be going, my brother's son's team were over in Spain playing against the likes of Barcelona and stuff like this for Shell's academy. Alan Caffrey had sorted out for them. Brilliant stuff that, all the kids should be getting a chance of doing that here, and I think it's just up to us to really push it now, because there is a buzz about the league now that hasn't been there in a long time. And there is that, area, like, people can watch the games more regularly on League of Ireland TV, and there is an area there where we can push this. But at the same time, as you said, the facilities and all that, they have to get better.
I think anecdotally, JD, like the young Irish
Well
teams
said, by the
that
way,
are-
Jack.
Yeah,
Well said.
absolutely. I think the young Irish teams that do go abroad and play games, they generally are acquitting themselves very well, including like the international teams. And they deserve better facilities, deserve good coaching, because for too long it's been nowhere near good enough.
And particularly, I know we're coming quite close to the ads, I'd say, but like particularly even in the 16 to 18 age bracket is the big one. Like I've seen that Chelsea team was probably that Chelsea team was probably under 14, was it, or something like that? So like I think at that stage it feels like our teams are very much on a par with a lot of good teams in Europe. It's just when they get to 15, 16, 17, 18 to get the volume of training and quality of training that you would have got at Man City when you left.
A million percent, and that's what I've been saying for so long. It's the kids that aren't physically developed enough to go straight into a first team in the League of Ireland at 16, 17, 18, but technically too good to maybe play against, you know, a really poor, I don't know, a Sligo team if they're playing for Shamrock Rovers and they're beating them 6-0 under 19s. That's not what they need. They need to be playing, if they don't get the opportunity because of Brexit or whatever it is, to go abroad and play in a good competitive under 18s league in the UK. They need to have that here. Otherwise it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time.
Yeah, okay. Jack Byrne, any questions for Jack? 53106 with Dan and Johnny on Football Saturday. Half times in the Premier League, folks. Leicester 1, Leeds 0 as a result from earlier, so Leeds losing 5 games in a row now. Jesse Marsh's first game in charge. Aston Villa 2, Southampton 0 at half time. So goals from Ollie Watkins at Villa Park, and the second goal then came from Douglas Luiz. It's goalless between Burnley and Chelsea. Newcastle 2, Brighton 0 with Ryan Fraser and Fabian Schär on the mark. Norwich 0, Brentford 1. A huge goal for Brentford in the battle to stay up. Ivan Toney with the goal. And Wolves 0, Crystal Palace 2 is the latest score from Molineux with Jean-Philippe Mateta and a Wilf Zaha penalty for the Eagles. Liverpool kick off against West Ham at 5:30. Football Saturday between now and 5 is after the news. Don't go away, folks, with Jack Byrne, Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward. 53106 for your text. We're back after this.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Sky. Don't miss Watford versus Arsenal on Super Sunday. Live only on Sky Sports.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. You can text us 53106 or tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming the conversation as well. Listen on News Talk. Watch us on the digital and social channels for Periscope and Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. Jack Byrne, the Republic of Ireland and Shamrock Rovers midfielder, is in studio with Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent and Johnny Ward. Remember, football and Off the Ball brought to you by Sky. Manchester Derby Day tomorrow. Don't miss City against United, live only on Sky Sports. Latest scores in the Premier League. Leicester 1, Leeds 0 a result. And let's get some updates now from the 3 o'clock games. Burnley against Chelsea, a report from half-time in this one from Adam Jury.
Burnley 0, Chelsea 0. It's been a promising first 45 minutes for the Clarets, who as it stands will climb out of the bottom 3 for the first time since November. In all honesty, Chelsea are lucky not to have fallen behind, as Burnley have seen a Weghorst volley cleared off the line by Thiago Silva, and McNeil's missed an open goal after Mendy handed the ball to him on a plate. The Blues have work to do in the second half, especially to unlock a rather frugal Clarets back line that have barely offered a hint of a chance to Thomas Tuchel's side. Half-time at Turf Moor, Burnley 0, Chelsea 0.
Newcastle going well against Brighton. That's in James's Park. Reporting is Stephen Goldsmith.
Newcastle 2, Brighton 0. The transformation of Newcastle continues. That said, Brighton have absolutely dominated this game, but they lost their composure for 2 or 3 minutes and found themselves 2 down. Ryan Fraser, who missed a great chance just seconds in, scored the first after Jacob Murphy's little dinked effort came back off the post, fell right into his path. He couldn't miss, and he didn't. Then his ball in from the right-hand side was met by the head of Fabian Schär to make it 2-0. Few half chances for Brighton, who, as I say, have looked the better side, but that counts for little when at half-time it's Newcastle 2, Brighton 0.
Wolves against Crystal Palace. Reporting from Molineux is Joshua Smith.
Wolves 0, Palace 2. It's the Zaha show, as always, for Crystal Palace. They are well worthy of their 2-0 lead, and it could well be 3-0, and nobody would have questioned it. Gallagher with a great ball in for the opener. Zaha bundled it across the goal, and Mateta, the first shot he had was saved and looped over the goalkeeper, Jose Sarr, in the Wolves goal. He ran round him and had an easy finish to tap in for the opener. Zaha at it again for the second. His ball in gave a double chance to Mateta. Some great footwork to him. Drops the ball. His shot in the box was saved. Went back to Zaha. Again, more great footwork. Back to Mateta. Second shot. blocked in the box again. In the end, it was Schlupp on the third attack that ran into the box, taken down by Kilman. Zaha stepped up for the penalty from 12 yards and put it straight down the middle to make it 2-0. Elise, he's the unsung hero for Palace on the right-hand side, though. He's been just as impressive as Zaha out wide, and he had a fantastic curling effort going into the top corner, brilliantly saved by Jose Sarr. Gallagher's also gone close to a shot from outside the box that was pushed wide by the Wolves goalkeeper. He's probably Wolves' best player in the first half. Pedence right before half-time on the end of a quick corner with the best chance for Wolves. Another good effort, pushed wide for another corner, but that's as close as Wolves have come. And at the break, it is Wolves 0, Palace 2.
And a report on Aston Villa against Southampton from Tom Ross.
Aston Villa 2, Southampton 0. Ollie Watkins sent Villa on their way early on with a superb strike, his 7th of the season, played into him by Danny Ings, the former Southampton defender, and he finished it superbly. Just before half-time, number 2 came, Douglas Luiz, with his first goal of the season for Aston Villa. Beautiful play from Villa, played into him by Coutinho, and he finished it, side-footing the ball into the net. Apart from that, though, it could have been much worse for Southampton. Coutinho, Watkins and Jacob Ramsey should have scored as well. At the other end, not too much to talk about. Some wonderful football from Southampton, but not much of a threat, although we did see Che Adams head over the bar, and we saw Perrault flash a shot just wide of the post. Half-time, Aston Villa 2, Southampton 0.
And a half-time report on Norwich against Brentford from Guy Swindles.
Norwich 0, Brentford 1. Huge goal as far as Premiership safety is concerned was scored in the 32nd minute by Ivan Toney. Great save from Krul from Canos, had given the corner away. Excellent delivery by Christian Eriksen, headed on by Ajar and tucked home by Toney. Norwich, though, have had chances, none better than in the 2nd minute when Gilmour set up. Rashica only had the keeper to beat, but he couldn't, and from the resulting ricochet, also put over by Gilmour. So Norwich have had their chances, Brentford have taken theirs. Norwich 0, Brentford 1.
So Liverpool and West Ham kick off at 5:30. We'll have teams at 4:30 for you as soon as they come in. Fulham 2, Blackburn 0, a result from the Championship, so Fulham flying high. Bristol City 0, Birmingham City 2 is the latest score. It's Derby 2, Barnsley 0. It's Hull 0, West Brom 1. Half-time Middlesbrough 1, Luton 0. Latest score Preston 0, Bournemouth 0. It's QPR 1, Cardiff 0. Reading 0, Millwall 1. Stoke 0, Blackpool 0. And Swansea City 3. Coventry City 0. In Scotland, in the Premiership, it is Dundee United 1, Hearts 1, Hibernian 0, St Johnstone 0, Motherwell 1, Dundee 1, Rangers a goalless against Aberdeen. It's Ross County 1, St Mirren 0. And latest scores from Shelbourne and Bohemians. Well, there's a result. So Shelbourne 1, Bohemians 0, and the champions winning that Women's National League game on the first weekend of the season. DLR Waves and Treaty United have just kicked off. Peamount United and Sligo Rovers kick off at 5. Cork City and Galway also at 5. And Athlone Town against Wexford Youths has got a 7 o'clock start. There's been a goal at Turf Moor. Burnley against Chelsea. Adam Dury.
Burnley 0, Chelsea 1. Reece James has opened the scoring for the away side. It came about as a result of great possession play by Chelsea. They laid the ball off onto the right-hand side. James ran into the penalty area, twisting and turning, finally opened himself up some space, and with a difficult angle struck the ball hard and low into the bottom left corner of the net to give the Blues the lead. Burnley 0, Chelsea 1.
Michael Omofemi scoring twice for Swansea in that game against Coventry as they lead by 3-0 in Gaelic games in the Allianz National Football League. Full-time, Longford 14 points, Westmeath 10. Latest score for Fermanagh 2-6, Laois 1-3 at Brewster Park. In the Hurling League, Wexford have won 122-212 against Offaly at Wexford Park in Division 1 Group A. So the Model County absolutely flying. And Leinster ran in 9 tries in a 61 points to 17 win over Benetton. This is in the United Rugby Championship in Italy. And just going through the horse racing, the Flying Bolt Novice Chase at Navan, the Grade 3, won by Gentleman de Me at a price of 5-1 on the hot favourite in that one. So I don't know if Dan and Johnny, if you had money on that or not, but
probably had the second.
John Ryan, the trainer of the second, said he thought he'd win, even though he was 7-1, but he did manage to finish second. But no, it's coming down to Cheltenham, JD. 2 weekends away now, and there we are.
Jack, I was just looking at Queevin Kelleher last week, and it was such a brilliant day for him. Liverpool at the moment, how do you think they're fixed in terms of the quadruple, as it were, the title? What would you make of their midfield? Because I was kind of feeling watching the Chelsea game that at times there was balls going over the top and they were a little bit playing on the line, you know?
I like them in midfield. When Harvey Elliott plays in there, I think he's a really good player. I I think he gives them a little bit of control in there. Fabinho he's the best in the world in that position for me. I think he's brilliant. I think he gives them such that front three such a platform to just go and express themselves. And then you know what you're getting now with Jordan Henderson and Thiago has been better this season. He's looked like he's settled a little bit, although he picks up an
injury or two,
a couple of knocks. But Harvey Elliott's done brilliant to get back from that injury so soon, and fair play to Klopp throwing him back in, trying to get him up to speed. He obviously rates him, and start of the season he was excellent. He looked like a little bit like what Coutinho kind of gave them when he was there. But I think he's going to be a real top player, and I like that midfield three with Harvey Elliott, Fabinho and Henderson.
And the rest of it?
I think for me, them and Man City are the two best teams in the world. I think Chelsea have been, I wouldn't say miles off it this season, but they haven't been anywhere near the level of Man City and Liverpool. Over the last couple of seasons, the level that they've produced has been phenomenal. Probably the best the Premier League has ever seen. So, look, new players coming into to Man City and Liverpool have certainly strengthened them this season. Chelsea, I don't think the Lukaku one has worked out the way everybody has thought it was going to.
Why hasn't that worked out?
You can't put all the blame on Lukaku, because he's trying and he plays a certain way in a certain style of football. And if you're the manager and you're bringing him into the club, which I'm sure Tuchel has sanctioned it, he hasn't been brought into the club without Tuchel saying, I need number 9, I want Lukaku. He can spin that now whatever way he wants because it hasn't worked out, but at the time he went for him and he wanted him. So you've got to have a way of getting him into your team, and you've obviously been looking at the player and how the player plays, and you're bringing him to your side. You're signing him for 100 million. You're bringing him to Chelsea. You've got to have an idea of the way that you think he's going to fit in, and I think he just doesn't know how to use him, and he just doesn't know how to fit him into the team, and it's not worked out. And he's tried to change it a couple of times, but I think it was I can't remember how they played a couple of weeks ago. He had 7 touches of the ball. Johnny,
famous 7 touches.
Crystal Palace,
you could play up front for them and get more than 7 touches. Do you know what I mean?
The style of play.
Yeah,
it's the style of play.
He's been told, to probably stay in a certain position, and he's not getting the
ball.
Whereas
Havertz is all about movement and fluidity.
Havertz would slip down, but I think the Lukaku at Inter Milan would have done that as well. He would have waited on the shoulder of defenders and been slid down the sides and used his pace and his strength to hold defenders off and get shots away. I don't really think he's an around the box link up kind of player. I think he wants space.
When you say Liverpool and Man City are the best 2 teams in the world, would you give PSG any chance in the Champions League then?
Yeah, I would, because they've got Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, Verratti. They've obviously got top players. But I think if Liverpool and Man City click, although Chelsea in a knockout game, in a one-off game, or over 2 legs can be strong as well. But you'd like to think if Liverpool and Man City bring their intensity that they play with, I don't think the foreign clubs will be able to live with them.
How big is Foden's success for City? Because again, like the Man City academy, and you see the players it's produced. Okay, it hasn't all worked out for them at Man City. Watch Will Patching last night, and you see yourself, and you can see sort of players who've come through there have certain abilities. But how big is it for City to have someone like Foden come in and shine at that level for them? It must be massive for their sort of overall vision.
100%, but I think from the age of 11, 12, I think everybody knew he was going to be a top player. Yeah, we used to show the highlights of the academy games around, Platt Lane at the start, and then obviously when we moved to the new academy, and you just see some of the stuff he was doing. They were winning games, when he was chipping keepers, he was running the pitch, and he had this small body, but he had the big dangly legs, and you know, he was special as a kid. Like, you know, if you are watching the other academy games, all the coaches, all the players, you've seen what Phil done the weekend, and then when the games are obviously getting shown on the screens in the academy, the highlights. I remember he used to stand there with Scott Sellers, who was the academy manager at the time, and we used to watch some of the goals he scored, and he used to just turn around to us and say, if he doesn't make it, I don't know who will. You know, and it was similar actually to Jack Grealish when I went to Aston Villa. The Irish scout who brought me over, I played a game with Jack. We were only 12, and he came on for 30 minutes because I think he had played the day before for the older age group. He came on for 30 minutes. I think he scored 2 goals. I actually scored in the game as well. We went back to the hotel, and he said, if this kid doesn't make it, he said, you know, I don't think there's any hope for anyone. And he was special.
You were 12 at the time.
Yeah, I was 12.
That's mad, isn't it?
So that's where you encountered Grealish first, you know. It's sort
that's
of
where, yeah. And Dan Crowley was there as well.
Well,
also.
yeah.
So
couldn't convince him to declare for Ireland even then, no.
No, he was in the Irish set up then as well. But you know, it's mad. Like, that's how you start coming across people, and you know, you see different parts of other people. The way you were saying there about, you know, players that I would have played with at Man City, maybe not breaking through at Man City, but like, lads have certainly, you know, made a career. Like, I don't think there's anybody that I've played with in the academy bar, maybe, you know, a handful of lads that aren't playing anymore. You know, most of them are playing. Like Jason Denayer is playing at Lyon, Angelino at RB Leipzig. They actually signed them back the season before. Marco Lopez, Olympiacos. You know, Pozo's in Qatar now, was in Spain playing in La Liga. Thierry Ambrose, Belgium. You know,
was there someone?
Ian Nacho, Angus Gunn,
Angus Gunn. You know, Ian Lawler.
Was there someone playing for Milan that time that you had?
Brahim Diaz. You know, so like, Olivier Encham was a Celtic now. Fofana getting linked with Burnley for 16 million in January. That was the midfield I was trying to get, you know, trying to get into and trying to play with in my reserve team.
Yeah, it's mad because I mean, and to be fair, right, people would have spoken about you in those terms in Dublin, and how is that adjustment then to go over when you are like the top dog here, and then you step into that water, and like anyone who's played football at any level, like they step on the pitch and you suss things out straight away of like what the crack is. Do you go on the pitch on the first day at City and go, wow, this is like, this is a level up?
No, 100%. You know, but my technical ability was always really good. You know what I mean? I was always really good at that. That's what he signed me. You know, I was small, like, you know, I was really small as a kid, but technically I would have been able to handle the ball. But when you're going in, you know, under 18s football, whatever it is, reserve team football, and you're playing against lads who are, you know, 16, 17 years of age, but they're men, you know, they're already filled out, and then you've got a certain few that you can tell, like David Brooks was in my youth team. You know, he was let go at 16.
I wouldn't have any idea he was there at all.
Yes, because he was grown, he was dangly, he had also good slatters in his knees, he was, you know, struggling with ground pains, all that kind of things. Went on, obviously had a great career, obviously not well at the moment. You know, thoughts are with him on that, but you know, it was certain players like that at different stages, and that's kind of what I was saying here. I maybe wasn't good enough to start in that youth team. In the first year, I didn't start in the youth cup team, at 16. But if I had been in Ireland, you know, I wouldn't have been getting that training. I wouldn't have been getting that exposure. I wouldn't have been slowly closing that gap. You know, by the time the under-19s youth league came around, I was ready to play under-19s football. Still maybe not ready to play, you know, reserve team football. But the under-19s, it was such a good level, and the players weren't physically massive, and it wasn't under-23s football where you were going up against, you know, say the likes of Will Keane and Lingard and all them boys. I probably wasn't ready to play against them, but I was probably ready to play against Man United's under-19s, or when I was 16, play against Man United's under-17s, and they were all good games. And I think that's something that we were talking about beforehand in Ireland, that, you know, that's the gap that we need to bridge. That's that age group where, you know, we need to we need to get better at, because...
So don't get battered by senior players, but very competitive under 17, under 19 games.
100%,
yeah. Because we spoke, Queeveen Kelleher has been such a big story in the last week, but we would have spoken here last week about how Queeveen effectively only took up goalkeeping at the age of 14, and I would have spoke with one of his former coaches who said at Ringmatton, who said they got to the stage where there was nothing more that they could do with him. They actually were saying to Queeveen just before he left, you tell us what to do. So he needed to go into that environment at Liverpool to be sort of finessed and brought to that next level. And that is the fear with things here at the moment, that if you're very good, you'll probably be fine, but if you're good but could be very good, how do you develop on your potential? And that's the fear that we have, and that is a very valid fear and concern, and that should be focused in minds. And when people talk about these things in the FAI, various people sent out, I think there has to be an awareness of those problems rather than, and I think, to be fair, there are people there now, Will Clark spoke last week, and I think there are people who broadly accept that what we have at the moment isn't good enough. That has to be the starting point. We can't delude ourselves into thinking that what's there now is suitable, because it isn't.
No, 100%.
We should have a segment called Ask Jack, because plenty of texts and questions in for Jack Byrne here on Football Saturday. What's Jack's opinion on the Man United team? Is it a culture issue, or because they lost the Europa League final after 22 penalties, struggling to rebuild momentum, says Brendan in Tyrone?
I don't think it's a culture issue. I think they've just not found the right balance for the team. I think they don't know what their best team is. I don't think, obviously the stuff going on off the pitch isn't helping as well.
Is Ronaldo a good thing for United? Was he the right signing?
I think so. I can't imagine where they'd be without him, to be honest. If they were hanging their hat on Cavani this season, or Martial or Rashford playing up there, I think they'd be in a lot worse position. So Ronaldo's one of the best players to ever, play the game, and if he can't drag the standards up in the dressing room, and players are having a problem with, him being there, maybe being a bit hard on certain players, then, they're not the kind of players you want in your dressing room anyways. But I think, like Sancho have been doing a little bit better the last couple of weeks, but they've probably strengthened the areas where they probably didn't need it, and probably haven't strengthened in areas where they needed it. And you obviously see that with the likes of Dalot playing ahead of Wan-Bissaka now. He's not the answer. They needed to go and show him probably a right full and certainly a centre back, and they've made a mistake trying to build that back four around Harry Maguire over the last couple of years, because he's certainly not Manchester United captain material, I don't think.
Struggling to get in the team at the moment. Liverpool, West Ham at 5:30. Do you think Declan Rice could be at a bigger club now in the new year, in the 2023?
I think so. I think he's a really good player in his position. But it's just going to be the fee that they demand, isn't it? It's going to be what a club is willing to pay for what they're going to get. At the end of the day, he's not the 20 goal a season or 10 assists Kevin De Bruyne. He's Declan Rice. He sits in front of the back four and he keeps things ticking over. So it's what...
Is that what United need?
Well, they've got Scott McTominay there doing the same thing, really. I know he's not English, but he basically does the same job.
Yeah.
Do you sound like a kind of a number 10 now, looking down on the lad who keeps it ticking over? You don't, because people say Rice is perfect for Man United, but you think they already have Scott McTominay.
So you think if they sign Declan Rice, where do you think do you think
one of the other two? I think he'd improve them. Yeah, definitely. They don't have leaders though, as you say, Maguire. They've massive leadership problems, I think. But I think Rice would improve.
120 million if you were Man United on Declan Rice.
Probably, yeah.
Would you?
Yeah. They were paying Ronaldo $500,000 a week,
We'll transfer the money to your account on Monday.
Yeah, like one of these scams.
Just asking. If it was me personally, I wouldn't.
You're a footballer, the Rice one's interesting.
Yeah, I think someone like a Verratti or a Modric type player. I know they're obviously not going to go there, but
someone more creative.
Someone like that, I think would help them more. I think if they're going to go for Declan Rice being in the middle of the park, they're going to get something similar because of the way they played to Scott McTominay.
So he's still not going to run a game,
Well, I still don't think he's going to give Pogba, or Pogba might not be there at the end of the season, but I don't think he's going to give Pogba say, that freedom to go and run games completely. I think he'll have to help out and run the games alongside someone like a Pogba. I think they need a three in there that can boss games together, you know, and not just rely on Declan Rice coming into the team. Or I still think if Declan Rice comes into Man United's team, Pogba still probably finds himself playing on the left in the big games, you know. So, and they probably played McTominay and Rice in the middle. Like, is that the way forward for Man United? I don't think so. Like, you know.
5-3-106, lads, was at the Liverpool-Norwich match 2 weeks ago, and the minute Thiago stepped on the pitch, he changed the whole game. That's the difference now. Klopp has huge options, says Niall in Dublin. Lots of valid points by the League of Ireland facility conditions, but to blame the FAI is the same approach of the past. Where's the push and drive from the clubs? All their investment nearly always focused on their first team squad only. Clubs need to do more with less finger pointing, says Pat in Galway. Jim Goodwin recently became manager at Aberdeen. He previously spoke about being priced out of moves for League of Ireland players by the bigger clubs in Scotland when he was at St Mirren, after seeing other clubs. Seeing how successful Jamie McGrath was, I presume now that he's at Aberdeen, he'll look to explore the League of Ireland market again, and he'll have the resources to get the players he wants. Does Jack think he'd ever consider moving to club in Scotland again?
It's an interesting one. Like, if you ask me, would I go back to Kilmarnock or somewhere like that? Probably not.
Yeah.
You know, that's just my honest answer at this moment in time. Probably not. I know Jamie obviously doing really well, and you know, he's got to move to Wigan in League One, so obviously looking to go into the Championship. So, you know, it's obviously worked out well for him. But
say the likes of Hibs or Hearts.
I've had the opportunity to sign for them before, and decided not to.
Why?
I went up to watch a game with Graham, Hearts and Hibs, and it was New Year's, and met the owner, met Craig Levine and Austin McPhee. Went for dinner before the game. It was brilliant. Like, facilities great. Went around the university. And then went to watch a game, and you know, it was proper helter skelter. So it didn't suit me. I didn't think, you know, it was a massive club, it was a big club, Hearts, but I just didn't think it'd suit the style of football.
That's mad, like,
you know.
And so it's kind of saying what Kenny Shields was saying here. Like, the League of Ireland, in some respects, is more on the ground than a lot of the SPL.
Yeah, and I found that actually in League One, it was there was a lot of football actually played. When I was at Oldham, we played really good football under Richie Wellens, and we played, you know, we wanted to play the proper way, and we obviously had a good team. We had Owen Doyle there, Cameron Dummigan, Patrick McElhenney, so we had a good team, like, you know, and we could play Keane Bryan, so we had a good team we could play. When I went up to Scotland, when I left Oldham at Kilmarnock, we didn't play, like, you know what I mean. We had Steve Clark was our manager, and you know, we were brilliantly organised, and we were tough, really tough to beat. But I wouldn't say we played. And the teams I remember we went to St Johnson, and I remember sitting on the bench at St Johnson, and on the bench it comes down like this, and you sit up, and you can only see a certain level of the sky.
So much of the ball you saw.
Only so much of the sky. So you're looking across the pitch, and I just remember like that, and then you're looking and you think, it's going to drop over there now. And you're just waiting, and then same thing again. You think, oh yeah, it might drop there now this time.
It's funny. So, I'm making I haven't been following that much. I don't think it might be going for that great for him, but he was saying that he was a bit frustrated with the style of football over there when he'd gone over, and no, he wasn't necessarily getting his game at the time. But it's interesting because obviously the SPL is a decent standard.
Yeah, but look, Dan Cleary's one of my best mates. You know what I mean? I'll be really close with Dan, and obviously Aaron McIneffin. I spoke to Dan after a couple of games, and he said, I don't think I've made 2-3 passes in the game, like, you know. So results business, and that's the way it is over there. And look, you might go and watch a different team over there, and they might pop it, like Celtic proper try and pop it, you know what I mean. They play really good football, so I suppose I don't see enough of it to know, but I just get, I can only give my experience from when I went up to sign for Hearts. You know, I was advised not to sign for them by Graham because of the style of football. You know, and the occasion was brilliant. It was the derby, Hearts Hibs, New Year's night, I think it was. So the occasion, everything was brilliant. The stadium, the people up there were great. But from the style of football they played, I wasn't gonna play there the way that I was playing at Oldham at the time.
Yeah, goals are flying in, lads, in the Premier League. Aston Villa 4, Southampton 0. I did not see this coming. Ollie Watkins, Douglas Luiz, Philippe Coutinho and Danny Ings on the mark. Chelsea 4-0 up at Burnley. Kai Havertz with 2. Reece James back in the team now after his recovery from injury, and Christian Pulisic with the goals. So I'm just looking where Lukaku is on the bench. We have Newcastle 2, Brighton 1. So Brighton have pulled one back at St James's Park from Lewis Dunk. And it's Norwich 0, Brentford 3. A huge result this for Brentford in the battle to stay up after Leeds lost 1-0 to Leicester earlier on. So Ivan Toney has scored a hat-trick, 2 of them penalties for the Bees at Carrow Road, and it's still Wolves 0, Crystal Palace 2. Liverpool and West Ham kicks off at 5:30. Text in on 53106. Could you ask Jack how good was Cian Lynch as a soccer player, says Connor.
Class. I was talking to the Gooch actually.
The Gooch.
That's what I call him, yeah, Cian. I was actually talking to him in Dubai. I was over there in December and he was over there at the same time as me. He was over there with a couple of his hurling mates. He was a quality player. We went down to the Galway Cup. Johnny, you know, in Salt Hill.
Salt Hill Fives,
yeah, brilliant. We went down there, we stayed down there at the Galway Cup, and he got player of the tournament. And we lost to Cruz Azul, is it, the Mexican team?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we lost to them in the final. I think they brought over their under 19s. We were only 12. So that's he was a quality player though. And we actually played against him. How it came about, how we ended up signing for us was we played against them. He was playing for a team in Limerick in the All Ireland, but he obviously played against us. We beat them 2-0, and he was the best player on the pitch by a mile. He was brilliant, he was. And we signed him, and obviously coming up from Dublin, he had to pick between hurling and football. So he actually chose to play football ahead of hurling at the time. And you know, he was saying, like, his dad used to be close with my ma. His dad's a big detective down in Limerick, like, you know. So he used to say to me, man, like, he's really good at hurling, like, and we'd be looking at him like, what's hurling? You know what I mean? What's he on about?
And you literally living in the shadow of Croke Park.
I know, you know? Yeah. He gets slither into my ma's back garden the odd time.
But that was your free kick.
Yeah, that was my free. So
it's mad, isn't it?
I think
hurler of the year now.
Yeah, hurler of the year.
What happened? Like,
obviously when.
Yeah, like, do you think he could have kept going with it? Like, in terms of being stuck with it.
100%. He left and right footed. He used to play off both feet. He used to play left or right wing. Brilliant. Great fella, lovely fella, good crack. You would enjoy his company, Johnny, to be fair. But delighted to see how he's getting on now, and still in contact with him all the time. And you know, as I said, I've seen him in Dubai there a couple of weeks ago.
He's got the football movement, lads.
Night out with him in Dubai, was there? No.
Yeah, no, we met up with him. Do you know what? He was actually, I was in a place.
Villa probably
around the corner, yeah, Villa, just looking over the sea. Nobody's joking. But I was in a place where I was having a bit of food, and I sent him a picture because I seen where he was. He was over in the marina, and there's a big like one of these London Eyes. Yeah. And I sent him a picture from the balcony. I said, I think I could see you there with all your mates. He sent me a picture back. They were actually sitting outside on the beach having a couple of drinks. So now it was funny. Chat to him a bit. Kane, he's a good guy.
Yeah, and you can see the movement on the hurling pitch is absolutely fantastic from Cian Lynch. 53106, any questions for Jack Byrne, Dan or Johnny on Football Saturday? Just before we go to the break, one more. Ask Jack, how does Stephen Bradley compare to other managers he's worked with? And is it a huge task for Bradley to keep everybody happy in their current Rovers squad? Asks Graham Merrow.
Graham Merrow, tell him I said hello, because I know Graham, he's a good bloke. Yeah, I think, like, keeping people happy. If you win games, you're going to be happy, you know what I mean? If you win leagues, you win cups, everyone's going to be happy. There's so many games here, you know. There's Friday, Monday, you've got cup games. The Unions game, I think, is coming up, is it? Is that what it is?
The Union Cup, I actually didn't know where that stood. So,
so that's coming up now in a couple of weeks. We play Pats again in that.
Yeah.
So you're gonna need the squad. You're gonna need, you know, fresh faces. You can't just be relying on one or two players to pull something out of the bag every week. And, you know, players have to realise as well, you're at the best club in the country. You know, we think we're at the best club in the country. So you've got to expect competition. You know, you've got to expect that, you know, there's players fighting and ready to come into the team if you're not winning a game or if you're not playing well. And whether that's, you know, Borky obviously not playing last night, he comes on, does well, and I'm not in the team. Well, then you accept that and you try and get back into the team, and that's what you do as a professional footballer. Because if you don't have that competition, you don't have that drive, you know, you can get comfortable and it can become, you know, well, it doesn't matter if we get beat this week because I'm playing next week anyways. So look, Stephen's an unbelievable coach. He's a great person, and if anyone steps out of line, or if anyone steps over the mark between, you know, not being happy with not playing and being a bad egg in the dressing room, he'll know, you know, where that line stands, and you know, he's certainly the boss there. So he'll have no bounds about telling people how it is if he feels he needs it.
Okay, great stuff. Jack Byrne on Football Saturday. The teams are in for Liverpool and West Ham. No Declan Rice in the West Ham 11.
Getting €120 moved to Man.
Well, I know you're sanctioning the transfer Monday, aren't you? Alisson in goal for Liverpool. Back four: Alexander-Arnold, Van Dijk, Konate, and Robertson, and then the midfielders: Fabinho, Keita, and Jordan Henderson, the captain, and then up front: Sadio Mane, Mo Salah, and Luis Diaz for West Ham. Fabianski in goal. Cresswell, Zuma, and Dawson in the back three. We got Johnson, Souček, Vlasic and Fornals across the middle, and then Lanzini and Bowen behind Antonio. 53106 for any texts on any football matter. We're back after this. Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. You can text us 53106 or tweet us at Off the Ball. We're streaming the conversation as well. Listen on News Talk. Watch us on the Off the Ball social channels for Periscope and Twitter at Off the Ball, YouTube, Facebook, and on the OTB Sports app. Just to break away from football for a moment, let's preview the hurling league Division 1 game between Dublin and Kilkenny at Parnell Park. Already a win for Wexford this afternoon. Match throwing in at 5. Aisling O'Reilly's there, and Aisling, the Dubs haven't beaten Kilkenny since 2013, but they won the Walsh Cup. They're unbeaten in the league, and they might feel they've got unfinished business.
That's it, John. Yeah, really good atmosphere here in Parnell Park. And as you said, Dublin are going to be looking at this game to get one over Kilkenny today, I think. As you said, they know each other well. They met plenty of times in the league and championship over the past few seasons. Dublin won their league encounter with them last year, while Kilkenny beat them in last year's Leinster final. But Dublin, they're on the way up at the minute. And yeah, they'll definitely be looking at this as an opportunity to really get one over their Leinster rivals today.
What are we looking at team-wise? Who do we need to look at from the Dubs and the Cats teams today?
Yeah, well, as many people will know, Brian Cody is going to be without the majority of the Ballyhale players, while Owen Larkin is also not expected to be back until after the league. And then Richie and John Power as well. They're close to fitness, but neither are available today. So, yeah, I suppose without those more experienced players in there, but they're still showing, you know, without them, they can still do the business. So starting in the middle for them is Keane Kenny and Alan Murphy. And then the half-forward line is Walter Walsh, Warwick Walsh and Tom Phelan. So there is experience in there as well. And then I suppose Dublin, on the other hand, they are in the opposite position to Kilkenny, where they pretty much have a full hand to pick from. Chris Cummey and Conor Burke in the middle, and the full forward line is Fergal Whiteley, Ronan Hayes and Aidan Mellett, who's been really on top form for them. So we'll be watching out for him today as well.
And many fans trickling in there to Parnell Park at the moment?
Yeah, John, it's unbelievable. It's like a summer's day. I can hardly see out of the press box because the sun is beaming in so much. So we're wondering, will we have to move? But I suppose that's going to be a factor in the game too. And I suppose for the second half, if it does go down a bit, you know, that's going to be a benefit for whoever is going to be playing with it against it in the second half. But there's a good atmosphere. Crowd is really gathering in, and there was live music and everything playing beforehand. So yeah, it's brilliant here.
Okay, Aisling O'Reilly there at Parnell Park ahead of Dublin and Kilkenny. We'll have reaction to that game on the OTB digital channels later on. Just to let you know, scores from the Premier League: Leicester 1, Leeds 0, a result from earlier. Aston Villa 4, Southampton 0 is the latest. Burnley 0, Chelsea 4, Newcastle 2, Brighton 1, Norwich 0, Brentford 3, and Wolves 0, Crystal Palace 2. Your old boss, Jack Byrne, and not doing so badly this season. Patrick Vieira, Crystal Palace.
No, he's doing really well. Good start. Play really good football. Probably a much different style to when Roy Hodgson was there.
Yeah.
Probably what the fans wanted. You know, they've good recruitment. Getting Elise in there this season as well. Gallagher. Some good players. So, you know, he's done really well building a whole new team, really. So considering how they're getting on this season, I say it's a real success for Patrick.
What was he like to deal with, Fiera? Like a sort of a household name. What was he like in terms of his interactions with you?
Yeah, for me, he was brilliant. You know, even just when before he was obviously coach of the reserve team, he was just finished up and he was doing a bit of like ambassador work for City at the time, and he used to take because when I first went over, I couldn't play in the under 18s games or register to play in league games unless I was a trialist, so I could only play 6 weeks of the season, and then I had to play basically under someone else's name. So a lot of the time when
So you were a banger playing.
I was basically a banger, yeah.
What was your name? What was your name that they gave you?
Olivier and Chan will go.
You don't look like an Olivier, to be fair.
I copped on at some stage, I don't know why. But yeah, so we used to go over to Abu Dhabi a lot, like with the shadow squads, or you know, myself and a couple of other players that we had signed from abroad who were kind of in the same situation. We used to go abroad, and with the Right to Dream Academy, the lads from Ghana, we'd have a couple of them, and then a couple of the sheikhs, you know, relatives from Abu Dhabi would join us when we get over.
They were good, were they?
To Abu Dhabi, yeah, they were brilliant, to be fair.
That was the official line, you see, yes, yeah.
Had all the new boots and the new shin pads, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like that. So, yeah, so Patrick used to take that, and he would coach that, and that's where he first kind of started out, and that's how I would have started to engage with Patrick, and we just got on from there, and then he come down, he trained with the academy, you know, and then he obviously got the reserve team job, and for me it was a blessing, like, you know, because I was more playing as a deeper number 6, and he turned me into a basically a number 10, and really helped my game and gave me a confidence and belief that, you know, and he was the reason, him and Fergal Harkin were the reason behind me not going to Bolton on loan and going to Holland. And
or Canberra, yeah.
Yeah, that was a huge decision, and you know, they took it out of my hands, and you know, they said that was going to be better for my career, and you know, obviously it was. So it was a great experience and a great year. So you know, he's obviously been brilliant.
You did a job with him in the table tennis at some stage, you were saying?
Yeah, I pre-season we went to Croatia and played him in table tennis and beat him, and he ended up giving me his last Premier League jersey. He's actually in the house, it's signed. I gave it to my man, yeah. So
very good. What if he'd won? What were you going to give him?
I actually, do you know what, Johnny? I had a St. Kevin's jersey. I actually just parked off to the side, but we never got to that stage. It would have been funny, Patrick, having that up in the house actually beside his Arsenal and a few others.
Very good.
Hoping Evan Ferguson will come on here. You must be buzzing for him as well.
Yeah, brilliant. He looks like a real man, doesn't he? He looks like he's ready to play. And I was actually talking to John Morland at the FAI Cup final, and he said he said to me then, he was in the box next to us. He was, and he said to us, he expected him to make his Premier League debut before the end of the season, and he obviously has. So
there we go.
For him.
And John Morling's obviously left Brighton and has been linked with going to Newcastle now. So
is he,
yeah, so that would be an interesting one because a lot of the Irish players have gone to Brighton. I see Thomas Conway messaged us here. I recall playing for North Tip against the St Kevin's boys team, which contained the most formidable midfield partnership in the history of football, Jack Byrne and Cian Lynch. To this day, I remain haunted by the experience.
Oh, brilliant.
Your victims roamed the country, still telling stories about the time they played against that too. Yeah,
brilliant stuff. We've got live commentary of Manchester City against Manchester United, Nathan Murphy and Brian Kerr from the Etihad Stadium live tomorrow here on News Talk and Off the Ball. Was there much of a vibe, Jack, when you were at City about the derby?
Yeah, there was. I got introduced to the City fans. You know, obviously brought myself and my family over when I was 14. They do that big thing on the presentation on the pitch where you hold the jersey and all that kind of stuff. For the goal that Vincent Kompany scored against Man City against Man United when they won 1-0 when they were going on to win the league that season. So yeah, that was my first memory of being at a Manchester derby. I had the whole family there. City had obviously brought us over. I was signing me pro contract. That day it was me 18. It was around my 16th birthday. So although I'd been there for 8 months already, or 9 months under Olivier Encham's name.
You're telling us Olivier doesn't exist.
Just goes to show, even super clubs in the world occasionally have registration issues.
I hope he's not getting. He's on the dole the last few years, bugging a few quid like under the tube now.
Yeah, we've been claiming that years, Jenny, as well. So don't tell anyone.
How you feel it's going to go tomorrow? What's the verdict?
I think City beat them. I think they beat them if they turn up quite comfortably. But you know, it's derby game, isn't it? So you'd always seem to do okay, but I think the last derby game they kind of looked like City were kind of getting the grips with a different kind of style, you want to play, and they just picked them off for fun really in the last one.
It must be, JD, the most Liverpool fans wanted Man United to win a game.
I was thinking about that actually. We haven't talked about it.
Because when you think about it, I don't know if there's been a game of this.
And no Ruben Diaz, by the way, 6 weeks out with a hammer.
Yeah.
Like really on form. I mean, when they played them in Old Trafford, it was a disgrace how much they were inferior to them. But I don't know, Man United are a bit odd as well. They can produce the odd good.
But they were doing that with counter-attacking football.
That's when they were good.
And they're going to try to be a pressing team possibly tomorrow, and they're not at that level, are they?
It'll be interesting.
No more, but
like if the fact that there's a title race is brilliant because it was dead at Christmas.
Well, it's a title race relegation battle with Leeds losing today and
title
Brentford
race in the
winning.
Premier Division as well. By Rovers.
Well, not Rovers. The Rovers will walk it.
There we go.
Jack is like Stephen Bradley's phone is buzzing in his pocket now saying, "Do not say such a thing." Yeah,
very good. Jack Byrne, delighted to have you in and love to have you again.
Thanks, lads. Appreciate that.
Jack Byrne, Shamrock Rovers and Republic of Ireland midfielder, and Dan and Johnny, thanks as always, lads.
Yeah, what are you going to say to us? Like,
well,
next
I'll
week,
think of something over the next 7 days and we'll say to you next week. Leicester 1 Leeds 0 full time. Aston Villa beaten Southampton 4-0 and Chelsea beaten Burnley 4-0 in the Premier League. Latest scores: Newcastle 2, Brighton 1, Norwich 1, Brentford 3, Wolves 0, Crystal Palace 2, Liverpool and West Ham kick off at 5:30 in the Championship. Fulham 2, Blackburn Rovers 0 is a result from earlier. Bristol City 1, Birmingham 2 a latest. Derby have beaten Barnsley 2-0. Hull 0, West Brom 2 is the latest. Middlesbrough lead Luton 2-0. It's Preston 2, Bournemouth 1, QPR 1, Cardiff 2. And it finished Reading 0, Millwall 1, Stoke 0, Blackpool 1 is the latest. Swansea with Michael Obafemi on the mark 3, Coventry 1 is the latest score coming into the closing stages of those games. Scotland, we have results from the Premiership. Rangers 1-0 up against Aberdeen late on. Dundee United 2, Hearts 2, Hibernian 0, St Johnstone 0, Motherwell 1, Dundee 1 as a result, and also a result, Ross County 1, St Mirren 0. So that's what's going on football wise. Shelbourne beaten Bohemians by 0-0 in the Women's National League earlier on. We've got to leave it there. Don't forget, Off the Ball back tomorrow from 1 to 7. Joe Malloy's in the chair, showcasing live and exclusive coverage of the Manchester Derby live from the Etihad Stadium. Nathan Murphy and Brian Kerr calling the showdown between City and United. We'll also bring you the Sunday paper review with Cleona Foley and Sarah O'Donovan and keep you right up to date on the Allianz Leagues with reporters from around the country. So be sure to join us tomorrow for some great commentary from the Etihad and conversation as well. If you missed any of the Saturday panel celebrating Irish women in sport with with Cora Staunton, Chloe Watkins, Annie Merlam, or OTB Football Saturday with Jack Byrne, Dan McDonnell and Johnny Ward, you can find the podcasts of our content on the OTB Sports app. Search OTB Sports in your app store now to download the app for iOS and Android, or listen back wherever you get your pods. Thanks so much for listening this afternoon. We'll speak soon. Bye-bye.